Are you an individual who's constantly self-sabotaging themselves? Or maybe you have a tough time following through or making decisions. It feels like there's this push and pull within you, right? Something that you know you want to take action and do the right thing that you need to, but there's something holding you back. If you are, this episode is going to open that all up for you. We're going to go deep on that. We're going to unpack this, and it all comes from your rules and values in life. Think about this for a second. What you value in life is going to dictate what you take action on. And the rules that you have to experience those values are what are responsible for you feeling a certain way. So in this episode, we're going to go nice and deep on that so you have a full understanding of what these values are, how to set them so that you can be successful, and how to remove yourself from self-sabotage. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be resilient, if you're going to discover your true potential, you need to know how to take control of these so that the external world is controlled by your internal world. Check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast. You got your hosts Matt and Chris Calderoni here from Molliteum. Super excited and kind of glad to be back. Actually, we've been having a lot of guests on the show as of late, and we've got one now that we can kind of jam out on together and kind of get back to some more solidified topics, right? Versus what other people want to talk about.
Yeah, and even talking about just like current events that are happening in the world and stuff like that too. Because I'm sure, as everybody knows,
There's observed
everything that's going on in Europe, Ukraine, with Russia. It's crazy, but yeah, hopefully, we're going to be able to introduce a lot more in the news topics, as well as stuff that's going on with our clients. Well, not necessarily our clients, but stuff that comes up during the week that possibly you guys might want to hear about and learn about too. So we're going to introduce that today. And today we have values and rules, right?
Yeah, that we'll be going into. And before we do, a quick little plug on a couple different things. So we're getting our TikTok up and at 'em right now, which we're really excited about. Check us out there at Molliteum. You can find us on Instagram, social, all over the place. And again, if you're interested in these podcasts, you really like it, please subscribe, please download, please share, whatever it might be. It helps a lot with obviously growing the channel and spreading our message, but more importantly with just getting people into understanding this. We're really on a mission right now to help the world discover their true potential with resilience. And we feel that you guys can all be a part of that by just doing something simple like subscribing, liking, or sharing. So let's dive right into this. So values and rules. It's an interesting topic because this was something that's come up a lot as of late. Obviously, we'll talk about it with this global conflict going on, but starting behind what values and rules are and kind of getting into that because, as human beings, we really are guided by the values that we hold from within, right? Values guide our behaviors. They guide the decisions we make. They guide, how we take action on things based on what means something to us.
Essentially the person that you are trying to become.
Exactly. Right? And the problem is a lot of the times that values are not necessarily chosen by us. They're given to us, right? We see a lot of social constructs that place values onto us. So what we want to do in this whole episode today is we want to really give you the juice behind what these values are. We want to give you the juice behind what rules are, because a lot of us have rules behind our values and you need them to be effective. And then we want to teach you kind of how to rearrange your values if you're not at a point in life where you want to be, right?
Challenge them all the time. Like there's no point. Well, you go from learning stuff from when you're a young kid, from your parents, from whoever it is. And then when you get older, you work yourself into the person that you want to become. So there's no problem challenging and breaking free of that stuff sometimes. But like, every once in a while, you have to do a quick little rundown of what your values are and see where you want to go. Because like Matt said at the beginning, your values are going to guide who you want to become.
Yeah.
Right. So that's very important for you to be able to make your own decisions later on in life, because realistically, like, especially with everything going on, people got to make their own decisions when stuff gets tough.
Absolutely. And let's talk about this for a second. Like, if you're somebody who's been in a situation before where you have a disagreement, or let's start with a simple one, a push-pull, right? Where you have to make a decision, a tough decision, and it's like, you want to, but you're not too sure, and there's something that holds you back. This is when we see values in conflict, right? You have values that are higher in priority to you than others, but the values that are higher in priority, you obviously put at one point, and the values that are higher, to you, that mean something to you, you're going to make decisions based off of those. So the problem is that we have, when we notice it, and this is kind of a great way to start going into this now, but there is a hierarchy of values that you want to move towards and that you want to move away from. So let's talk about this for a second. Move toward values are values that you obviously want to seek after, to chase after, right? So values like fulfillment, values like success, love, happiness, all that great stuff. These are values we want to move towards. But then there's values you want to move away from, which could be, let's say, negativity or disappointment or uncertainty and so on. So when you get into this spot where if you've ever had to make a really tough decision that you feel like you have an issue with, what we're seeing here are a move toward values conflicting with move away from values. So one of the most common examples I can use, we have a lot of individuals we deal with that want to be successful, right? And the problem is, though, one of their top move toward values is success, but one of their top move away from values is uncertainty. Now, we've been through a lot. We've built a pretty successful company. If there's one thing I can say, it's that success and uncertainty do not go hand in hand.
No. And just a quick question, like, why do you think it's so hard to move away from values? Like, why? We know that we want to. A lot of the time we know that we want to move away from values or even behaviors or beliefs and stuff.
Sorry, you're saying the move away from values.
The move away. Why is it so difficult? Like, we know that we want to, but sometimes it's very difficult. We hold on to them quite a bit.
I just think because people don't take conscious control. I think that's the biggest issue, right? So going back to the push-pull example, you want to be successful, but you don't want uncertainty. Well, I can tell you from being a pro athlete, being a business owner, being, building a brand and so on, there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with success. So the problem is when you have a value that's so high on your list that you want to move towards, but one that's so high on your list that you want to move away from, and you don't take control over those so that they can work together and flow together, you've got this constant batting of heads. Let's look at this global issue that's at hand, right? We've got one country, that's evidently moving towards freedom and independence. We've got another country who's obviously moving towards basically claiming what is theirs. These are values in conflict, right? And the problem is when we have values in conflict, it can be at a global level, it can be at a personal level, it can be at a level with your family or culture or whatever. We often seem to think that you have to believe in my values and I have to believe in your values. And the moment that we realize those don't line up, we start to fight against it.
Does it really come back to that risk of the unknown? Like changing is scary, right? You don't know what's going to come with it. You don't know the success you're going to have. You don't know the new responsibilities that you're going to have. You're so used to one way all the time. Does it come back to that risk of, what could happen next? And possibly even, do I have the ability to sustain that risk and those new responsibilities?
Well, I'll even challenge you on that. There's some people that don't even think about uncertainty. Like, there's a lot of risk takers.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't even think it's a matter of, do people like to risk less or more? I think it's what people have been programmed into. Think about it. There's a lot of stuff that's been programmed into us by parents, by teachers, by any authoritarian figure that you've grown up with in life, right? If you played on a sports team, I know so many athletes that we deal with who've carried values since they were like 5 years old.
Yeah, I guess so. Actually, a perfect example. Had a 12-year-old individual that I've been speaking with, one of our clients, and he was saying, I'm afraid to carry the puck because when I was last year or the year before that, I had a coach that was just pounding it into me to say, you know what, you got to dump the puck in. You got to dump the puck in instead of he's a creative player, a very good skater. He's very good.
So hold on. So look at that right there. You've got two values in conflict, right? Creativity that you're moving toward, but getting ripped on or getting in trouble, if you will, by the coach, moving away. I know for a fact creative people, they can't have that constraint on them.
And that was the thing. So he was so afraid to make that change because now it's like, well, if I do carry the puck now, even though I have a coach that is allowing me to play, giving me the green light, that risk of the unknown of what will he say, and he has to do it enough times in order to obviously have that experience. But it's all about, I guess, for him, creating that experience that over and over again, he can take that risk, he can make the risk, and that he has the ability to even sustain whatever comes with that risk.
Right. And this is where you can see it too, right? Like, this is values in conflict is conflict, right? Like, this is where conflict arises from. Look at that. That's a personal conflict that happens between coach and player. And then on a global level, again, going back to this whole Ukraine and Russia, that's a conflict of values between two countries. Right. So it's like, when we look at these values, the whole point is the move towards, number one thing you got to take, there's two kinds of values. There's move toward and move away. When we get into this values of conflict, that's when we have to start to look at ourselves and say, okay, I've been self-sabotaging for a real long time. Anybody that's tuning in that's a self-sabotager, I'm telling you right now, it's values in conflict. And the only way to take control of that and get away from that, to stop sabotaging yourself, is to rearrange your values. So I want to go a little bit deeper in on the two kind of subtopics now, if you will, of values to chase after. There's means values and there's ends values. Ends values. Let's start about this. End is where you want to go to. Okay. I want to end up here. And an ends value, the best way I can define it, it's an emotion you want to experience. So here's where people get this wrong. A lot of people chase means values, right? Money. That's the number one thing we see in society. Money and is going to be the thing that sets me free, and so on and so on and so on. And that might be true. That might be a great means to chase. But as human beings, we know chasing means values is the worst thing that you can do. It leaves you unfulfilled. Ends values are what fills your soul at the end of that $1 million run, or 2 million, or 20 million, or 50 million, or $1 billion run. If you're chasing the end value, that you're using the money, if you will, to get you to a place that you need to in order to feel a certain way, that's where we're noticing the most happy and successful people land.
So is that the long-term, short-term?
Exactly.
So means would be short.
Means you shouldn't even bother chasing. Means you should look at it as means. Right? So it's not like, so for example, if I were to ask anybody, why do you want to be successful? And they were to say, well, because I want to make a lot of money. Okay, great. Why do you want to make a lot of money? Well, I want to make a lot of money so that I can provide myself with freedom. Okay, why do you want to provide yourself with freedom? Well, I never really had that when I was younger growing up, and I saw my parents struggle. Okay, cool. So why do you want to be able then to provide that freedom to yourself and others? Well, you know, I feel like if I'm able to provide that freedom to myself, to others, to people around me, I'm able to then have a greater impact on people and my own life and live the way that I want to. That's what we want to chase.
Right.
We don't want to chase the $100 million year. That's part of it, right? We don't want to chase, for example, I want to be the best in the league at what I do. Great. Why? That's how you get to these ends values. How do you want to feel? So a great exercise that we do with a lot of our athletes or clients is that we look at it and we say, hey, where do you want to end up? How do you really want to feel at the end of this season? How do you really want to feel on a day-to-day basis? How do you really want to feel when you're going? And that's how we start to strategically set targets with them as well, because we're chasing a feeling. We're not chasing a means, right? Start at the end. The ends values is what's most important to get to, so that these individuals or even yourself, you can feel fulfillment at the end of it. Because if we're just chasing after values like being the best and money and so on, it's unfulfilling.
And I've also noticed chasing values. That's like, I found it to be a very like weekly thing. So for example, it only lasts for 5 days. Mm-hmm. And then once you hit the weekend, it's tough to get it going on the Monday again. Like There's no problem with taking your time off on the weekend to reset, recharge, reload, all that other stuff. But a lot of the times where you're waking, let's say you have that early morning system that you're doing. You're waking up early at 5 a.m. You're getting your run in, your workout in, but then the weekend you take it off. And then sometimes it's very difficult for people to get back into it on the Monday. Mm-hmm. So for me, the means, if you don't have that end, it doesn't keep you locked in on the recovery days or on the recharge days. It doesn't allow you to integrate yourself back into what you believe to be the daily targets.
Let's even look at something as simple as working out. I know from talking to a lot of different kinds of gym freaks and bodybuilders and so on, that we've worked with before in the past or have had relations with and so on. These individuals don't go to the gym just to get bigger. That's a means. What these individuals really want to feel, these guys and gals are chasing after achievements, feelings of achievement. The number one question, I was talking to a friend who's a bodybuilder, and she was saying, she goes, one of the biggest things behind me getting to this ideal weight and to this body fat percentage that's so low, it's not for anything more that I want to be able to feel like I've achieved something because I said I was going to go do it.
Right.
And that's what she chases in the gym, right? She's chasing an end of how she wants to feel, not just, I'm going to get shredded. Okay. Well, why? I want to feel like I accomplished it. She said, and she goes, and this translates into other areas of my life, right? It's something that, it's the same feeling that she chases to be able to say, oh, I said I was going to go do it. I'm going to do it. right? It's a feeling. It's a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling of success, a feeling of it's fulfilling.
It's also a very addictive feeling.
It's very addictive.
And for anybody that has ever played video games or anything like that, where there's short-term achievements, that's how they get you locked in. And if you noticed, as soon as you get locked in, as soon as that phase is done, that's when the pay to play gets in there because they know you're addicted to it. So it's setting those, I guess, short-term end goals, attaching the means to those short-term end goals so that you can continue to.
We're gonna dive into that a little bit more processed in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point to understand on this is there is a dark side to pursuing these, which is why you need to take control over your values. Right? There's a dark side to it where a lot of people they'll pursue success, and it's the highest value on their hierarchy of values, which we'll talk about in the next couple minutes here. But that's the highest one. And all of a sudden they achieve that success, but let's say health is a little bit lower on their list. And once they achieve it, health is down there and they've noticed that it's other things and so on. You know, I hear this knock a lot of the times around wealthy people that have made a lot of money. And it's like, well, these people tell you to take care of yourself first. It's only because they have so much money and they're able to. And it's like, true. Or are they just more enlightened in that sense? Have they found something that we haven't? And I'll be honest with you, I did not know how much prioritizing health, for example, and happiness flowed into my success, right? Like, I'll never forget this. When we started this company out, we were making nothing more than like 20K barely in a year in our very first year of this company. I put the highest priority was to make sure every single day I got my training in, my workouts, I felt good, I slept good, I ate good, all that. And it fueled success in every other area.
Well, I think that's because it kind of primes you in those other areas.
Totally.
Right? Because if you really do think about it, your health, your fitness, you do have control over that. It's not that you need a complete gym in your basement or you need a subscription to a gym or anything like that. You can do stuff.
You can chase that end.
You can do that. You can choose to eat healthy.
Totally.
You can choose to do what you want to do. And I think to your point, when you were talking about the people that have success and they take care of themselves first, potentially that primes them for whatever they need to do, whatever goals they set up that they need to do in the business world. Like, they know that they can already take care of themselves. They can do this, they can do that. They've hit those markers for themselves. Why can't they apply that same, I guess you could say, discipline and focus to other areas? Right?
Well, this is what's interesting because everybody acts bewildered when they hear about somebody that, oh, so-and-so is so disciplined in the gym. And it's funny because now they're building this business that's so big and whatever. That's where this like crossover starts to happen. It's one value that fuels another and fuels another and fuels another. So when we talk about hierarchy of values in a minute here, the whole point is that you put the one that's going to be the highest is going to be the one that fuels the next ones. Like, think of it like a domino like effect, right? You knock one off at the top and then it's like boom, 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 and the rest start falling through with it. So to wrap up on this little subtopic, the point is that I'm not telling you not to chase a means. What I'm telling you is to find the reason behind that means. If you're chasing to build a $1 billion company, I love that because I used to do the same thing. Where you're going to get the absolute most fulfillment out of that, though, is where you strip it down to what that's going to make you feel. Ask yourself why consistently. Why do I want that $100 million, $1 billion company? For me, it was like, well, I want to be able to provide jobs to others. And then it went even deeper, and it's like, well, I want to be able to help this world and better the human race with building their resilience and so on, a trait that's so often just left to chance. And like when you keep going deep on those, and you find the true end that you're chasing, your world just lights up, right? Like it's not hard to stick to things because it excites the shit out of you to go do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like when you you can start with a means, but really break it down to the end that you're after, because if you can find that, the excitement that you feel, the go-getting passion that you'll have, it's unmatchable. It really is. So let's talk about a hierarchy of values. So you understand now that there's moving toward values and moving away values. And you know that these values, we want to move towards the emotions we desire in life and move away from the ones we don't desire in life. So let's talk about hierarchies of values. So Everybody makes decisions based on what they value first, right? For example, if you're somebody that values success over love and then health, and then let's say, I don't know, let's start with those three: success, love, and health.
Right.
We see this happen a lot of the time where you start chasing the top one and neglect the other two. We don't, that's setting ourselves up for self-sabotage, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to pursue success and by doing so, you're going to actually create less success in other areas of your life. Right? So here's where we're kind of wired in a tough way with society. At school, why do we go to school?
To learn to get a good job.
To get a good job. So society's programmed us to think that the only two areas of life that really matter and breed success is is finance and career.
Right. Okay.
Right? So we are conditioned since a young age, if you've been in a structured school system, we're going after finance and we're going after our career. And those are the two things that mean success in life. Problem is this: if you've asked anybody who's done the success run and the career run and so on, and they do it within a short amount of time and they blow up and whatever, they are often at the end of that left unhappy. It's really what I've noticed. Right? Why? A, we deal with people like that. We literally have clients coming in who have done something like that. B, we see clients who are moving towards that in their athletic careers that we have to help rearrange those values. And at the end of the day, you can look at the research and the studies and so on. It all points to this idea that people that have a value system that neglects other areas of life, it doesn't work for them. So the whole thing is this: I'm going to challenge you to rearrange that hierarchy of values, and we'll give you an exercise to do so. But you really want to look at these values and ask yourself, okay, if I'm successful, will that allow me to feel more love and have better health? That's a poor way to structure that. Now, could you look at it and say, hey, I'm going to place, and I'm not trying to sound woo-woo here, but think about this for a second. I'm going to place love at the highest value that I'm experiencing right now. So I'm going to give everything that I do love. My career is going to get love. My personal life is going to get love. My relationships are going to get love. My health is going to get love. That's going to set off the other two, right? Health. If you chase health, health can set off as well love, which can set off success. But my point is, I'm challenging everybody who's tuning into this, if you truly want to accomplish things, to look at love and health as one of the top two hierarchy of values that you have in your system. Because I've noticed from all the research we've done, those who genuinely put as much love as possible into what they're doing often reap rewards way beyond this. That's when you're going to over deliver, right? If you're truly showing your sport or your career love, you're going to over deliver. If you're showing yourself love, you're going to over deliver. If you're showing your relationships love, you're going to over deliver. If you're showing, your social life love, you're going to over deliver. But you're also going to have a great boundary on yourself as well to look at it and say, okay, great, I'm chasing this love, but at the same time, I'm not going too far over where it's too much.
And that's going to keep you, I think, in that when things are going well, it's easy for everybody to do well. But when things are going poorly for everyone else, are you still able to kind of go through that? I think, like you said, giving those areas love, it kind of keeps you, it allows you to accept all the shit that's going on with it. And it's just part of that right. movement.
100%. Right? And it's like, when you have these values, like, think about this for a second. Think of leaders. Why do we respect leaders? They friggin' stand by something, right? Like, leaders need values. You can't be a leader without values. They stand by things. They push things. They really, even in the light of adversity, the eye of adversity, these individuals push themselves.
Yep, they
right?
stand down 2 feet and they're like,
they lock into their values. Yeah, absolutely. So these values aren't just a joke that you write and put down on a piece of paper and never look at them again. These are things that you have to review daily. So just like there's a hierarchy of values for the things you want to move towards, you also need to create a hierarchy of values for things you want to move away from. And usually, if you're chasing things like love, health, fulfillment, achievement, success, all that great stuff, these great emotions or feelings, chances are you're going to have few things you want to move away from. The reason being is because when you have this and you're looking at it and it's like, hey, I want to move away from then negativity. Great. That's awesome. Because if you chase love, or you chase success or achievement, chances are you're going to move away from that negativity as well.
Right.
Right. So just as much as you are putting a hierarchy to your values, and don't set them yet, we'll tell you how to do that in a second. But as much as you're putting a hierarchy of values towards your move toward values, you need to also do the same with your move away from values. Very simple stuff. So let's get into the last part of this, which is writing, or second last, I should say, which is writing rules for these values. So here's the problem. Most people set great values and put them in great levels of hierarchy, but the rules to achieve those values set them up for failure. For example, if you're chasing love and the rule for love for you is, I feel love when others show it to me, you can't control that. And then you will never feel love, right? I'm chasing success and I feel success when I get to the end of the road and I see that everything's accomplished and it's perfect. That's an issue because now you're chasing after something with rules that are putting so many constraints on you actually feeling this. You should make it easy for yourself to experience these values. I'm sorry, but like so many times I feel like we want to suffer as human beings. For what reason? I have no idea. But it should be easy for you to accomplish these and to achieve these. And it's not just being positive psychology in any of this stuff, but the point is you need to create momentum.
Oh, I saw something, sorry. I think it was on, I forget what it was on, but someone was saying the only way that you can gain respect in our world is if you show a certain amount of suffering before you actually go get something. So it's a thought
that's a value conditioned.
Well, maybe even a cultural thing or societal, whatever the case may be. And it's simply because like so many people have suffered before you. And it's like, well, in order to earn that respect from other people that have done what you're doing, or not necessarily even done what you're doing, but to be on that social hierarchy level, it's you have to put in a certain amount of suffering in order to be respected, which I can kind of understand that a little bit, right? Like it's you're putting your what's it called? You're putting your own experience out there. You're showing that you have the experience. Maybe that's even when some people say, you need the experience first before you're able to get into things, right? Yeah. So it's an interesting thought that you have to suffer a certain amount before you're actually accepted into whatever circle you're in. And
that's the thing, because you really don't. Like I remember a couple years ago when the biggest thing I was worried about was like, okay, do we have enough, I'll be happy when we have enough money coming into the business and we're always good and we're always okay. But the reality is, if you're just able to operate off I'm not saying you don't worry about things. I'm not saying to turn a blind eye to it. But what I'm saying is your rule for success or happiness or whatever it might be shouldn't be dependent upon something that's uncontrollable.
Right.
Right? Like that's the most ridiculous thing. And then we wonder why we have so many people in this world who are depressed, who are going through things, who aren't happy. You need to write rules to each of these values that are easily able to accomplish. So for example, if you're chasing health, and this is the one thing we'll go into and then we'll kind of move on, but if you're chasing health, you might experience health anytime that you work on yourself, anytime that you feed yourself with good food, anytime that you get a strong workout in where you feel good. Those are easily controllable. Mm-hmm. Right? Like you choose the food you put in your mouth. You choose when you want to work out. You choose when to give yourself some good love and to work on yourself. That's an easy way to experience health. And it's so many times the rule is I'll be happy when I've dropped this much body fat and percentage and this much weight and so on. And the problem with that becomes then you're always in this self-sabotaging mode. And this is where I see a lot of people give up before they actually accomplish that goal.
Right.
So we got to make ourselves... We got to make these values easily able to accomplish. So the last part is, how do we write these values and rules? Here's the thing. Before you do any of this and you create your list of move toward and move away values and values that you're chasing, and you write the rules to them, you need to ask yourself who you want to be and what you must value to accomplish it. So here's a great one. We've done this work with a lot of pro athletes that we talk to. And a great example is one individual we were working with. He said, okay, I want to become a main named player on this team, a franchise type of player on this team. I said, great. So what do you need to value? He goes, I need to put success at the top of the list. I'm going to put love second. I'm going to put fulfillment third. I'm going to put happiness fourth. And it went down the list. And he had some good values. And I said, but the problem is this. You mean to tell me you want to be a franchise player which means that you've got to last a real long time here without prioritizing your health first. Right? Like, think about that. You're an athlete who's trying to long-term play on this team. You need to have health coming first, mental and physical.
Right.
Right? So when we look at this, you need to ask yourself, who do I want to be? What must I value to get there? And if you can think of them that way, you won't go wrong in your list. And really question that list. Really review that list and ask yourself, okay, if I put this first, is it going to impact this one, this one, this one, this one? If it's not, simply rearrange them.
Okay,
right?
so what the big domino effect is, that's what you got to put at the top and then go down.
And then go down the list. And if you can value those things first and you really chase after it, and I'll tell you, a lot of the time it comes back to love and health as being one of the first two things, right? Mm-hmm. It's just what it is, because those are, we say this all the time at Molliteum, the base to human development, it really is prioritizing your mental and physical health first. And I'm not trying to sound cliche, but think about it. If you're constantly in a depressed state, and you're trying to chase after massive, ambitious goals, it's not going to happen. You are going to self-sabotage. I see it happen all the time. We get called in to remove these things from people who are doing that. If you're trying to become a world superstar athlete and you're not prioritizing that health first and you are going through something and so on, it's never going to get there. I've seen players with addiction. Mm-hmm. We work with them. We've helped them get through it, right? And it's like these players have chased success and, happiness is the lowest thing on their list. And then they wonder why they're slipping into these addiction issues. That's life. So really ask yourself, depending on where I want to go, what do my values have to be? And then once you write those values out, put rules for each of them. So it's a very simple process. Know who you want to be. Know the values that you want to end up at, the experiences that you want to accomplish, the emotions you want to experience, what you want to chase, and know the emotions you want to move away from. Line those up. Make sure that you have the highest one that's going to knock all of them out on the top of your list. Put them in that order. And then the key is this. When you're writing your rules and you put those rules down, you need to write these values somewhere or put them somewhere that you can see them. So for me, I've got them in the front of my journal. I've got them on my desktop background. I've got them on my phone. I've got them in a personal note that I carry. I've got them in the Monday management app that we use for our company. I have them all in there. I have them in my Notion. I have them all over the place. Why? Because I will never compromise these values. Mm-hmm. And it will get to a point that you then start to memorize them, obviously. But look at these values and really make sure once every 6 months or 3 months, however you want to look at it. I don't suggest doing it, every day, but question them. Mm-hmm. Do these still serve me in this order for where I'm at in life and where I want to go? Hey, you might have a career pivot, right? And all of a sudden, you need to start valuing now flexibility. That's a great one to start to look at, right? So based on the times in your life, really understand these values and be in touch with them. So let's give a quick wrap up. Number 1, values guide our lives. That's how simple it is. Often they're conditioned by society and we want to take control of those. Number 2, there's means values and ends values. Ends values are what you want to chase. Means values, you can look at them as just the means to the end, but you need to know why you're chasing it. That's going to give you those end values that you want. Again, if you want to become one of the best in the league, I'm not saying don't make that a target. I'm saying understand why before you start to chase after that. Okay? Then once you have those ends values and means values, you want to make sure you set a hierarchy of values. What comes first and what comes last for the values you want to move toward and the values you want to move away from based on who you want to be. So the simple way to do this, ask yourself, who do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? And then ask yourself question number 2, what must I value and chase? And what must I value and move away from? And then write the rules to those. Here's how I experience love. Here's how I experience moving away from negativity. Those are great ways to do it. So please, everybody, if you enjoyed this podcast, again, we are on a mission here to help the world discover their true potential through resilience. You can help us with that by simply liking, subscribing, sharing, giving this podcast to somebody that needs it as a gift to help them through a tougher time or whatever it might be is the best way to do this. Please, please, please make sure to share it if it works for you. You can check us out, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, every social media platform you could think of. Everything that we have is on YouTube as well, deeper episodes and so on. And of course, click the link to subscribe to our Molliteum Insider. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out on that, and we'll be sure to see you all next week.